Are you 55 or going to be 55 within the current fiscal year, and you want to retire early without having a 10% early withdrawal penalty on your 401k? In this video, we're going to explore the rule of 55 in simple terms. We're going to look at the do's that make it work in your favor and the don'ts that can cost you thousands. Just a quick disclaimer before we move forward. This video is for educational purposes only, and I'm not giving personal financial or tax advice. I do recommend that you speak to a financial professional or your tax professional before implementing the rule of 55. It's worth noting that I did retire earlier this year at the age of 55, and I did utilize the rule of 55 to help me do that early without having a 10% early withdrawal penalty. The rule applies to a job that you currently work at, and you must be currently either going to be 55 during that current fiscal year, or you currently are 55 during that current fiscal year. And for many public plans for firefighters, police officers, emergency response personnel, that age can be as low as 50. But the key is to make sure that you check with your plan administrator, look through the plan document to make sure that your plan does allow for this rule. So the rule only applies to 401ks or 403bs that are tied to your current employer. It does not apply for IRAs, and it does not apply for 401k or 403b accounts that are still with your previous employers. What the rule does is it waives the 10% early withdrawal penalty, but it does not waive income tax that's paid on early withdrawals. This rule is all about penalty-free, not being tax-free. To qualify for this rule, you must leave your current employer, and that can be for any reason. You can get laid off, you can quit, you can retire. You also must be turning 55 within the current year that you want to implement this rule. So if you left your employer at age 52, and then later when you turn 55, you want to implement the rule of 55 on the 401k at the employer that you left at age 52, you would not qualify. After separation from your current employer, you can request distributions from that plan. There is no requirement for substantially equal payments like the IRS Rule of 72T does, and you can take flexible amounts as the plan allows. And the plan's rules dictate how often you can take withdrawals from the plan. An example, you turn 55 in 2026 and you retire from your employer in August of 2026. You can take distributions from that 401k starting after you separate. You pay income tax on what you take out, but you do not pay a 10% early withdrawal penalty. How it worked in my situation is I contacted the plan administrator long before I decided to implement the Rule of 55. And I made sure that my plan did indeed offer the Rule of 55 and gave me the flexibility that I desired. And then I went ahead and linked my checking account to my 401k so that whenever I wanted a distribution, I could simply sign into my account online, request a distribution, and within a day or two, it would be deposited into my checking account. When I asked the plan administrator how they would know to implement that Rule of 55, they told me that what happens is they look at the plan, they look at what year I separated from that current employer, and as long as I was either going to be 55 during that current fiscal year or was 55, they did not implement a 10% early withdrawal penalty. Here are some of the things that you want to do. You want to make sure that you plan to retire or leave your job within the year that you're going to be 55 or that you are 55. For public safety employees, you want to confirm with your employer that you do have the lower age requirement of 50. And if you're close to 55, you're going to want to stay a few extra months to be able to take advantage of this rule. You also want to make sure that you leave your money in your current plan, your current employer's plan, 401k or 403b, to be able to utilize the Rule of 55, because the rule only works as long as the money is in that employer's plan. And you also can consider rolling your 401ks from previous employers into the current plan, because it's my understanding that those funds would also qualify as being a part of the balance of your current employer that can be utilized under the Rule of 55. You also want to explore your plan's rules ahead of time to make sure that you understand, for example, what are the minimum withdrawal amounts? How often can you take distributions? And are there any fees that apply to those withdrawals? Be sure and speak to your HR department or your plan administrator before making any final decisions. And also make sure that you meet with your financial and tax professionals to make sure that this plan works for your situation, and to make sure that you get all of the pertinent information that you need to make that final decision. And here are some of the don'ts. The first is you do not want to leave your employer too early. You must be either going to turn 55 or be 55 during that current year. For example, if you quit your job at 53 and then a couple years later, when you turn 55, you want to implement the rule of 55 on the plan you had when you were 53, you would not qualify. You would not want to roll over your 401k from that employer to an IRA. Generally, rolling a 401k to the IRA would kill the rule of 55. And IRS rules usually require waiting till 59 and a half to take distributions from an IRA, or implementing the rule of 72T, which requires substantially equal payments. Make rollover decisions only after you've fully satisfied the question of, do you need to implement the rule of 55? And don't assume that all your retirement accounts will qualify for this. Remember, it's only for the funds that are in the current employer's plan when you turn 55. In addition, don't ignore the tax side. Make sure that you speak with your tax professional to see how this plan would affect you. And don't assume that your plan is flexible. Some plans only allow for lump sum payouts. Some have limited distributions with high fees, and some may be too restrictive, requiring that you explore a different strategy. The key takeaway is that you do potentially have the opportunity to do an early withdrawal penalty-free under the rule of 55, which gives you flexibility if you want to retire early. So how close are you to 55? Are you considering an early retirement? Does your plan have the rule of 55 opportunity? If so, drop your comments down below and I would do my best to answer any questions that you may have. So if you found this video valuable and helpful, if you would, please hit that like button and go ahead and hit that subscribe button so that you won't miss any of my future videos. And I greatly appreciate you watching. So until the next time I see you, happy planning.